This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. And uh, this is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. And of course, I always encourage subscribers. So if you're not currently subscribed, you can and if you want, so you don't miss any future YouTube video content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and select all. And then that way you will be notified of any future video content or live streams that I do. And of course, there's always channel memberships. So there's the special Michael is I think $4, and the premium Michael is $10. And that's another way that you can support the channel if you so choose to. I'm not going to force you to do that or subscribe. However, I do want to talk about the Afghanistan fiasco, or the Afghan fiasco, that apparently all the conservatives are upset about and all the liberals are upset about it. However, I would say that I'm actually glad we got out of there. And now, if you've listened to me for a while, you know that I'm anti-war, always have been anti-war. Um, so I'm kind of glad that we got out of Afghanistan, and hopefully we can stop bombing all these other countries into smithereens, because that creates more problems than it does solve. So I'm glad we got out of Afghanistan. We needed to get out. I, you know, but um, but anyways, I'm kind of glad that we were able to pull out. Uh, you know, so yeah, we got out of there, and of course, the way it was done is an entirely different matter. I understand that, because if you think about it, the civilians and desperate Afghans who've helped the U.S. military there should have been the first to be withdrawn to the United States, followed by our military. But I'm kind of glad our military got out of there, along with our embassy staff. But I'm glad that we got out of there, because we had no business. I mean, you know, if you think about it, we were there for 20 years. 20 years we were in Afghanistan. And for 20 years, all we've done was wasted the lives of young men, women, and children. Mostly young men and women. To going over there and serving, who were in the military, to serve in these wars that our presidents and that the military industrial complex deemed as appropriate. And I gotta tell you, it cost a lot of lives of, and I think was unnecessary, and was the result of us being in Saudi Arabia and meddling around during the Persian War, Gulf Wars, which led to the attack on 9/11. And of course, that was done by people from Saudi Arabia, who, even though they were under the command of Osama bin Laden, who took charge of the 9/11 attacks, the men under him that were served under him were from Saudi Arabia. They weren't even from Afghanistan. So our whole intent with going into Afghanistan and going was more specifically to go after Osama, which we eventually did. Um, but then we stayed there for 20 years. And we're still in Iraq. We're still in Europe. We're still in Asia. So I think us pulling out of Afghanistan, I think, is a step in the right direction. And I would argue that we should have gotten out of there a long time ago. And that never happened. So finally it did, and I'm glad it did, because now the Afghan people can rebuild their lives and rebuild their country, and deal with whatever problems that they can deal with without the presence of the United States military. You know, our military had no business being in Afghanistan other than we were attacked on 9/11. And there was no real declaration of war, and they couldn't prove that it would prevent further attacks on the United States. Because let's be honest, if you're a terrorist entity, right? What's this? First of all, what's to stop them from, planning inside the United here in the United States or from any other country? Why specifically is us being in Afghanistan beneficial to circumventing further terror attacks when they could be planned out just about anywhere from any country, at any one time, you know? And I think Larry Sharp had pointed that out on his show tonight. So I want to just bring that up because I think that is nonetheless an important aspect to consider. Is that we had, we were attacked, we did what we had to do, and then we freaking nation builded and all that. And I don't get why we have to turn around and then give billions of dollars. We spent billions of dollars just on Israel. And what does Israel do? Bulldoze all the homes of the Palestinian people from the land that the Israelis are occupying and all that. And we make no mention in the media about the fact that we've given billions of dollars to them, and that's enabled 90% of their war crimes. Then when you take into account the whole Afghan fiasco, which I call the Afghan fiasco, and it's really actually, the fiasco is really that, I mean, is something, is the more or less resolves around the way that we withdrew our troops. I mean, but, I think anybody in the right mind would have considered, look, let's evacuate the embassy staff first, then the civilians and any desperate Afghans that want to flee, that have helped our military troops with garnering intelligence and so on and so forth, and then bring our military out and let's get the hell out of here, right? And it was done like 180. So I can understand the frustration with that. But at the same time, yeah, us being there another 20, 30 years, I mean, look, the same sort of thing happened in Vietnam. Because as you know, as you might be aware, if you're older than me, you might not be aware of it. I only know about it from the aspects of history. We went in there, we won almost every battle in Vietnam, and then we withdrew the troops and got the hell out of there. When that happened, South Vietnam, North Vietnam, and the communist NVA and Viet Cong, they took over the South. But of Vietnam, but afterwards they were able to rebuild their country in the way that they wanted. So we spent billions of dollars wasting time, energy, and resources in meddling around in Vietnam for what? And the same sort of thing happened with regards to the Afghan fiasco, with us being in Afghanistan. And so I supported 180% our full withdrawal of from Afghanistan, and I would argue that, like I said, it's a step in the right direction, and that's really the best thing we could have done. The best thing that the Biden administration has done was gotten our troops out of Afghanistan. You know, now the conservatives might complain, well, you should have never withdrawn. We need to kick their bahoonies. You know, we don't need to kick anybody's bahoonies. We've been doing that garbage for years. For years, we've been going to war. And we've been in Afghanistan for 20 years. And how did that work out for us, I think I'm glad we got the hell out of there. Regardless of what anybody's view is, in my personal opinion, I'm just glad we got the hell out of Afghanistan. I think that was the best thing we could have done, was get out of Afghanistan. That's what we should have done, a long time ago, was get out of Afghanistan. We didn't need to. We don't need to be in Afghanistan. We never, and I would argue that we should also get the hell out of Iraq. And instead of hating on everyone, let's freely trade now with Afghanistan and Vietnam and Iraq and North Korea and South Korea and Vietnam and China and Russia and Cuba and Venezuela. Let's have relations with all of them. And especially also now with Afghanistan. Who cares whether ISIS K or freaking the Taliban or whatever takes over Afghanistan? You know? But I think what's most important is establishing. I mean, it's their country. It's an organization. Whether they're terrorist groups or not. If their people want to allow those groups to take over their country and not do anything about it, that's on them. That's not any sweat on our backs. If they want to live in a feral, I mean, you have to simply understand too Afghanistan is tribal land. There's different series of different tribes that exist in the Middle East and in Iraq and in Afghanistan, which I think is towards the end of Europe and at the border of Europe and the Middle East. It's actually right next to Pakistan and just to this. It's actually towards the border of the Middle East. It's still kind of relatively towards the southern edge of Europe and the northern edge of the Middle East. So but yeah, so I'm kind of glad that we got out of there. And, so yeah, please consider subscribing to the channel, and also please like, comment, share, and become a member today. And, and I appreciate it. I'm Michael J. Long, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Oh, all right. So, anyways,